Sally Miniseries Issue 3. Immediately, the first panel thrusts us into action, with Sally and her new friends standing on top of a metal bridge above a bunch of SWAT bots inside a building. The pig shoots some red paint or something at the head of a SWAT bot to blind it, while saying, "We gave at the office," whatever that's supposed to mean. While blinding a SWAT bot herself by sending red paint at its head from a slingshot and knocking it over, Sally, being the practical one, advises everyone to not waste time yelling at the robots, instead concentrate on staying alive. And the red guy, who had been encouraging his friends to be very obedient to Sally last time, naturally compliments her on having wise advice. He's like the Sally suck-up of the team, except he's sincere about it. Wait a minute, can't the SWAT bots just wipe the paint from their eyes and be able to see again? Or is the fact that they fell over enough to damage them to the point of not being a threat anymore? Does the paint or mud or whatever hit them that hard that it damages them to the point of being completely helpless? Or I guess they're all just doing this to temporarily stun them so they can run away. That's probably it. As the red guy sprays some more paint at a SWAT bot, Sally advises everyone to duck and cover. The red guy points out that staging the assault with half their team wasn't a smart idea, so even he can recognize when Sally isn't perfect. If Sally knew about Jeffrey's plan to trick Eggman having made it with them, you'd think Sally, or rather the robot Sally probably with us right now, would have staged the assault to happen after Jeffrey had gotten back, so they'd at least have him to help. Mr. Useless? Again, fuck you, pig. If anything, Jeffrey was more useful than most of the team was. Not only did he plant the explosives on the last energy station like the rest of them, not only did he blow up a robot that was grabbing all of his teammates, which none of them could have done, but he also saved your life. What an ungrateful jackass. I wish he had been roboticized. At least Sally points out again that Jeffrey had saved his life. And when Hamlin says the most ungrateful line that anyone could ever say, "But what's he done for us lately?" he's immediately given karma. He falls down because the shooting lasers of the SWAT bots broke the bridge under him. Good. I hope he gets in trouble. Please tell me Sally goes on without him. Oh, or she could actually be lucky enough to grab him and somehow pull him all the way up despite his massive weight. That's good too. I wonder if this being a robot duplicate Sally is the reason why she was strong enough to do this, since fiction loves making androids way stronger than the humans they look like. Inexplicably. As expected for her logical personality, Sally tells the pig to save the compliments for later because they have a job to do. So you'll thank Sally for saving her life, but not Jeffrey? Fuck you. They go behind the curtains to reach their objective, and Eggman and Jeffrey are waiting for them, with Eggman complaining that they were late. Why is Eggman bothering to introduce himself to them when everyone in the world knows who he is? Just to be theatrical, I guess. Sally tries to prevent the pig from beating Jeffrey up by aiming a slingshot at him with paint and yelling that they're both on the same side. Eggman then boasts that this Sally is a robot duplicate, as if Sally wasn't clearly revealing that she meant Jeffrey, her, and the pig are all on the same side by telling the pig to stop. Eggman boasts that there never was a flaw in the defenses of Robotropolis, because the energy substation scheme was a field test for its latest creation, perfect robot duplicates of all the freedom fighters. Then Eggman brags that the actual Sally was delivered to him by Jeffrey, a Mobian mind you, before the roboticizer explodes from Eggman trying to roboticize someone who was already a robot. Okay, I honestly don't see why it would explode instead of adding more metal or not bothering to do anything at all because it already knows its job is done. It's revealed finally that the Sally we are seeing here was the real one all along, and brags that we've been wise to your game from the beginning. If she means her and Jeffrey, then yes, but pretty sure her friends were completely oblivious since they thought she was killed when the roboticizer exploded. But I guess she knows that, and that's the point. She wants to trick Eggman. She aims a grenade at Eggman with a slingshot. You know, there's something charming about this responsible, self-righteous leader of the freedom fighters casually using something as spunky as the ultimate juvenile delinquents tool. Also, either she's only aiming a bomb at Eggman as a bluff or she's finally gotten a clue. I'm guessing it's the former. Eggman boasts that he never comes without a backup plan, and surrounds everyone with stealth robots crawling out of the woodwork, which don't immediately die because of the grenade Sally was just aiming at Eggman. One of which grabs Sally. Then Jeffrey presses a button to make the floor shake and reveal an underground digging machine coming straight through the floor, with some more freedom fighters we've never seen before coming after him. I don't really care about these guys either. This happens after Jeffrey reminds him in another line of his I find genuinely cool that he was the leader of an underground group of rebels, and now they're coming as a Chekhov's gun. We also see Arlo and Penelope being just fine. Oh, good, they still remember that one of them is supposed to have a broken leg, that's good. So they're picked up by Jeffrey's friends, who I guess he called on his walkie-talkie or something to tell them to come to the island with hang gliders of their own and save the guy with a broken leg. Because Jeffrey knew ahead of time that Arlo would get his leg broken and would need his friend's protection, for some reason. Anyways, Eggman panics at the awesome Big Damn Heroes moment, and after Sally awesomely kicks Eggman, Eggman presses the button for the building to self-destruct, which would destroy the building he worked so hard on building. Kind of counterintuitive there, especially since it'll also destroy all of the duplicate robots that you worked so hard on making. You could have just left, and that was it. Instead, you did the hero's job for them. They probably wanted to destroy your building anyways. Eggman then gets into an escape tube which lets him leave the building. Unfortunately, the stealth robot that Sally still hadn't destroyed with the grenade she had been aiming at Eggman earlier destroys the machine Jeffrey's forces had used to enter the building, getting rid of their easy ticket home. Why does Sally insist on calling Jeffrey St. John? Aren't they working together as friends? But she's still on a mere last name basis with him. She really wants to reaffirm that she's the one in charge and keep her distance. Anyway, she shoots a SWAT bot with red spray paint to knock it over and blind it, and someone else does the same. In this way, they free up an air car, just call it a UFO, that'll let them leave the building. It sure is convenient that Eggman put small vehicles inside of a building. With these UFOs, everyone flies out of the building safe, and Sally says that Eggman's robot duplicate production plant is destroyed, so he won't be making any more of her or anyone else anytime soon. Did you think Eggman won't remember how he built them and be able to build them again? Why would he store the blueprints there and not in his own base? Hamlin acts as the audience surrogate by saying he doesn't understand what just happened, and Sally admits that she was in on the plan and barely understood it herself, so even the writers know that it's confusing. She awards everyone with some medals that she happened to be having in her vest pocket all along. That is one big pocket. And she says that they're all fully fledged freedom fighters now, with all the privileges, what privileges, and duties to the rank and tails. All because they helped her on 2 missions they actually did stuff in. We then cut back to the camp at night, and she explains she's sorry she couldn't tell everyone the full story, but secrecy was crucial because the reactions to events had to be authentic, so as to catch Eggman by surprise. Because of this clear recap plan explanation scene by Sally, this really helps mitigate the complaint that the underlying plot of the Sally miniseries was too complicated, because they could have easily not had this here. She recaps that Eggman had cut a deal with Jeffrey to swap her for a robot duplicate. Not sure why Eggman thought Jeffrey would ever truly support him since he's not brainwashed. This is possibly the stupidest thing Eggman did, and it's his undoing. But Jeffrey's true loyalty was to the king and his country all along. So after gaining Sally's trust by revealing what he knew of Eggman's master plan to her, they took steps to throw a wrench into it by activating the robot duplicate prematurely. Gaining Sally's trust, that's another thing. This explains why Sally went from being arbitrarily suspicious of Jeffrey like when she first met him, to trusting him with his whole plan. With Sally's robot duplicate given free rein to do what it was programmed to do, Jeffrey was able to uncover the nuts and bolts of Eggman's plan, which included the attacks on the next 2 energy substations, which were decoys devised to test the leadership skills of the robot Sally. I guess so he could see if she'd be convincing enough, but why would he ever test her out on the real teammates she's trying to fool? That's pretty risky. Why not test her in a more safe way? And just in case Eggman had any other surprises for them, Jeffrey and Sally had a safety net, the Rebel Underground, which were cleverly used to Chekhov's gun set up from Jeffrey's first meeting with Sally, rather than completely forgotten about for a really long time like I thought they'd be. So Jeffrey's forces had found Arlo and the other guy and set the broken leg on one of them. I guess with their inexplicably expert medical training and equipment. The tricky part of Jeffrey's plan, though, was bringing the robot Sally out of the camp and swapping her for the princess in full monetary view of Eggman. Why didn't Eggman catch him if he was doing it in front of him? Well, that's because Eggman, this was the first and only switcheroo, which left them free to plot their next move. Oh, there's actually sort of a reference to it, if not an explanation. The red guy says the real Sally called Jeffrey St. John when the fake Sally called him Jeffrey like a normal person would. And as I noticed, the robot also wore a purple vest instead of a blue one. So again, everything has an explanation. problem is, you'd think Eggman would remember his robot Sally had a purple vest and realize Jeffrey had brought the fake one to him. So this creates a massive plot hole, unless Eggman really is that forgetful, or unless he couldn't really see what color vest she was wearing because she was under the glass or whatever. But then when Sally confronts Eggman and she's clearly wearing her blue vest, he doesn't think she's the real deal. He doesn't ask why she's wearing a different color vest now. So yeah, that does create a plot hole. He sees what color she's wearing and still thinks that she's not the real deal. Why would Jeffrey give her the purple vest of the robot Sally? Why would the robot Sally have a blue vest all of a sudden? I guess Eggman knew that people wouldn't get suspicious of the fake Sally just because she wore a different color. But I still don't see what was so hard about getting the color of her signature vest right. The fake Sally even grieved and made hard choices just like the real thing. And we see her looking genuinely sad here. So was the fake Sally a master actress too and didn't really have any emotions? Or did she actually think she was the real deal? Should I feel sorry for her, being blown up when technically she never did anything wrong yet? I said earlier that maybe Grover had reprogrammed her to make her okay with clearly sabotaging Eggman, blowing up buildings of his. But I guess that had been something Eggman wanted her to do all along, and so she was fine with it. Sally then says that Eggman thinks they saw through his plan, thanks to Jeffrey, and they must hope that he never discovers the ultimate truth. Now I'm actually confused. I hope she meant that she wants Eggman to think everyone saw through his plan, and not just the real Sally and Jeffrey. As Sally leaves, she tries to convince Jeffrey to come back to Knothole Village with her, and Jeffrey explains that he's better off working with his rebel group. And he kisses her after that, with Sally narrating at the end that she's fond of Jeffrey now. Aww, I don't really care. Seriously, I guess this is the benefit to not supporting the opposites don't attract Sonic and Sally ship, is that I'm only very slightly annoyed by Jeffrey being a rival to Sonic for Sally here. And even then, it's only out of pity for Sonic and his problem, and not out of a genuine worry for the future of their relationship. A relationship that the first ever comic special blatantly told us is going to lead to them getting married, regardless of what Jeffrey does. Ultimately, I'm just happy for Sally being happy, and I don't really care. Much like how I failed to see why the Sally miniseries is the worstest thing ever after this point, I fail to see why much of a summary is needed for me, since me explaining Sally's recap of her master plan was good enough of a summary for the whole thing. That was basically what this entire issue was dedicated to anyways, the recap. The only new thing that happened aside from that was Sally leading the guys into a building of Eggman's, the whole plan going through, and then they go home. The guys were all equally useful as she was at reaching Eggman successfully, so I gotta compliment that. In fact, that's a huge compliment I can give to the Sally miniseries. They managed to show to me how even freedom fighters without special powers can fight SWAT bots. Sally and the others here may not be able to spin dash and cut through SWAT bots by the dozens, but as long as they can blind them and knock them over with spray paint or mud, they don't really need to be able to destroy them. It's inspiring! Like, anyone can technically fight SWAT bots if they had these things. I have a lot more respect for Sally's ability to handle robots after this miniseries. Of course, while I end up enjoying these 3 stories letting us see how capable Sally can be, I'm not saying the Sally miniseries was perfect. Other than the pig, who's an absolute asshole, constantly annoyingly arguing with Jeffrey, the other training freedom fighters have no personalities, so there's absolutely no reason for me to care about them or even remember their names. People can complain about most Sonic characters like Amy and Cream and Big of the Cat being one-dimensional if they want, but having one really prominent personality trait is still better than nothing. It's still better than being bland and forgettable and generic and boring. They didn't even bother to give Penelope and Arlo and Red Guy a gimmick. I almost called Arlo Arlock there. That's how forgettable their names are. I don't think the confusion over Jeffrey's plan with the fake Sally is enough to completely destroy the miniseries' credibility, as some people might think. Especially since it was recapped pretty clearly by Sally at the end of the 3rd issue, so there's no excuse for confusion. Again, I admire how smart and well thought out the plan was. Jeffrey was pretty smart about this. I may hate the later Ham for what he is going to do much later on, but for now, I think I like him well enough. More than Antoine and Rotor at the very least. Really, the only gigantic problem I could find with the Sally miniseries Aside from, again, Sally being the only likable and distinct character in the group of bland, boring people and Hamlet being a jerk, the only huge problem I have with it is that in a miniseries that was supposed to show off what Sally can do on her own, without Sonic there to save her, the real Sally spent the majority of it not in the story at all. It was the fake Sally that we were seeing the adventure of, the fake Sally who stole the show. Sally would feel robbed. But again, I don't really think this is a deal breaker to me. Remember, the fake Sally is supposed to be almost exactly like the real thing. So what she's able to do is what Sally's able to do. So regardless of whether this was the real Sally or not, I was still shown through her actions that this is how capable Sally actually is. That the real Sally would be just as capable of disabling SWATbots and making great plans, even though she can't spin dash through robots or destroy them with super strength and a laser shooting arm cannon. Even though this wasn't the real Sally, you still gave me a lot of respect for Sally's capabilities that I never had before this point. So for what's worth, I think the miniseries did its job. I can understand the complaint that it was too complicated and confusing with the Sally robot plan, but that's not a deal breaker for me. I was able to figure it out just fine. Not to mention it was obvious Jeffrey would never really support Eggman from the start since he's not brainwashed. So yeah. Before I move on to issue 24, one last bit of trivia. I've heard that originally it was planned to reveal later in the comic that the Sally we all know actually had been destroyed in an exploding roboticizer like this issue made Hamlet think it happened. And that the real Sally we would think is the real one after this miniseries would be the fake Sally all along. Of course, it's a sign of good writing sense on the writer's part that they realized this was a stupid idea and scrapped it. Because obviously the fake Sally wouldn't have wanted to help the freedom fighters by being her program first, and wouldn't have been able to qualify for the throne and have kids with Sonic in the good future. Not to mention, I don't know if Sonic would accept the fake Sally as his wife, or if anyone would accept her as a friend to the same extent that the old one was, for that matter.